Most people assume retirement means living on less money and accepting a downgrade in lifestyle. The reality is exactly the opposite for a surprising number of retirees who end up wealthier at 75 than they were at 65. This isn't about inheritance or lottery wins. It's about mathematical forces that most people completely misunderstand. Here's what actually happens. The average American reaches retirement with around $200,000 in savings. 10 years later, at 75, many of those same people have $350,000 or more. Their net worth increased by 75% during a decade when they weren't earning a paycheck. How is that even possible? The explanation isn't complicated, but it requires understanding three financial dynamics that converge during retirement in ways that don't happen at any other life stage. First, retirees stop paying the taxes that consume 25 to 35% of their working income. A couple earning $90,000 in their final working years might pay $22,000 in federal and state taxes plus another $7,000 in payroll taxes. That's $29,000 annually that simply disappears from their expense column the moment they retire. They're not earning $90,000 anymore, but they're also not losing $29,000 to taxes. Second, all those wealth-building contributions reverse direction. During working years, you're sending $19,500 to your 401k, $6,500 to your IRA, maybe another $3,000 to an HSA. That's $29,000 flowing out of your usable income. In retirement, those accounts start flowing back to you. The direction reverses completely. Third, and this is the dynamic most people miss entirely, your major expenses vanish on a schedule that's almost perfectly designed to free up cash. The mortgage you've been paying for 30 years? Finished. That's $1,800 monthly that stays in your account. The kids you've been supporting through college, weddings, first apartments, independent, another $1,200 monthly freed up. But there's something even more interesting happening beneath these obvious changes. Something about how investment returns behave differently when you're withdrawing versus accumulating. Something about sequence of returns that can actually work in your favor. What I'm about to show you explains why some retirees watch their wealth grow while others panic about running out of money. The difference isn't luck or investment skill, it's about understanding which financial levers matter during retirement versus which ones matter during accumulation. The rules change completely, and most people are still playing by the wrong playbook. Let me explain the sequence of returns concept that changes everything about retirement math. During your working years, market volatility barely matters. If the market crashes when you're 45, you keep buying stocks at discount prices. When it recovers, you benefit from having purchased low. The sequence of returns is irrelevant because you're contributing regardless of market conditions. Retirement flips this dynamic completely. If you retire into a bull market where stocks climb for the first 5 years, you're withdrawing from an account that's simultaneously growing. Your $500,000 becomes $650,000 even while you're taking $30,000 annually. You're actually getting wealthier while spending your savings. If instead you retire into a bear market, you're withdrawing from a declining account. Your $500,000 drops to $380,000 while you're also taking withdrawals. The combination devastates your long-term outcome in ways that are mathematically difficult to recover from. Here's what nobody tells you about this. The difference between lucky timing and unlucky timing can exceed $800,000 over a 30-year retirement. Same starting balance, same withdrawal rate, different sequence of returns, completely different ending wealth. Some retirees at 75 have triple their starting balance. Others have half. The families who understand this dynamic protect themselves through strategies most financial advisors never mention. They keep 2 to 3 years of expenses in cash or short-term bonds, completely separate from stock investments. When markets crash, they spend the cash buffer instead of selling stocks at depressed prices. When markets recover, they replenish the buffer by selling appreciated stocks. This simple approach eliminates sequence of returns risk almost entirely. You never sell stocks during crashes, which means you keep all the shares that will recover. The math is so powerful that it can add $400,000 to your final retirement wealth compared to selling stocks regardless of market conditions. The retired couple at 75 with growing wealth isn't just lucky. They structured their retirement to capture market growth while avoiding the mathematical traps that destroy others. They understand that retirement isn't about having enough money to stop working. It's about having enough money structured correctly so that time works for you instead of against you. Most people get the structure completely wrong, then wonder why their careful savings disappear faster than projected. Let me show you the mechanics that make this growth possible. Consider someone retiring with $400,000 at age 65. They need $35,000 annually to cover expenses after Social Security. Traditional wisdom says they're withdrawing almost 9% yearly, which sounds unsustainable. But watch what actually happens to their spending over the next decade. At 66, the mortgage disappears. Expenses drop to $33,200. At 68, both cars are paid off. Expenses fall to $31,500. At 70, the kids are fully independent, down to $29,800. By 72, healthcare switches to Medicare with lower premiums, now at $28,400. Their actual withdrawal rate has dropped from 9% to just over 7%, and that's before accounting for any investment growth. Meanwhile, their portfolio is still invested. Even conservative returns of 6% annually mean their $400,000 is trying to grow to $716,000 over those same 10 years. They're pulling money out, yes, but they're pulling less each year while the remaining balance compounds. By age 75, many of these retirees discover they have more money than when they started despite a decade of withdrawals. The math isn't magic. It's the natural result of declining expenses meeting continued compounding. The families who struggle in retirement aren't spending more than the successful ones. They're spending the same amount, but their expenses never decline. They upgraded their house at 62 and now carry a new mortgage into retirement. They're still supporting adult children financially. They never paid off the cars. Every expense that should be dropping is instead staying flat or growing. Their withdrawal rate never improves, which means they're fighting mathematics that cannot be won. There's one more factor that amplifies everything I've described. Healthcare costs in your 60s are often lower than in your 50s. This sounds counterintuitive until you understand the mechanics. In your 50s, you're paying full premiums for employer coverage or marketplace plans. Those premiums can exceed $1,500 monthly. At 65, Medicare starts. For most retirees, Medicare plus a supplement costs $600 to $800 monthly. That's $700 to $900 in monthly savings that flows directly back to your net worth. Your wealth grows in retirement because retirement itself is designed to cost less than working life if you let it. The question is whether you've set yourself up to capture that design or whether you've created a retirement that fights against it. The difference shows up clearly by 75. And it's almost impossible to change course at that point.